They called me useless, but what happened next shocked everyone. The day had started like any other in a quiet American suburb. Grandpa Henry, 74 years old, sat in his rocking chair on the porch of his modest house, sipping black coffee and watching the neighborhood kids play. His hair was silver, his hands wrinkled, and his walk a little slower than it used to be, but his heart was still full of life. Yet to his family, Henry had become just an old man. His son Daniel often said, "Dad, you've done your part. Just rest now. Don't bother yourself with big ideas or plans anymore." His daughter-in-law would roll her eyes whenever Grandpa spoke up during family discussions. Even his grandchildren, who once adored his stories, now preferred their iPads and TikTok dances over listening to him. One evening at dinner, Henry tried to tell them about an idea he had, something about starting a small community garden for the neighborhood. His son chuckled and said, "Dad, you're too old for projects like that. Just leave these things to us." His granddaughter added with a smirk, "Grandpa, no offense, but you're kind of useless now. You can't even use Instagram." Those words pierced his heart like a knife. Useless. That night, Grandpa sat on the edge of his bed, staring at an old photo of himself in uniform, back when he served in the army, strong and full of purpose. His eyes welled up with tears. How quickly life had changed. But instead of breaking him, those painful words ignited something inside. The spark. The very next morning, Henry took a notebook and started writing. Not about farming, not about business, but about his life. His struggles growing up during the civil rights movement, his years in the army, the day he met his wife, the mistakes he made as a father, and the lessons he learned as a man. Every morning, while his family thought he was just wasting time, Grandpa Henry wrote for hours. He poured out his soul on paper, writing stories that were raw, emotional, and deeply human. One day, his curious 19-year-old grandson, Alex, walked in. "Grandpa, what are you doing?" Henry smiled. "I'm writing down the truth. Alex, someday you'll want to know who your grandpa really was, and not the useless version you think you see today." Alex flipped through a few pages. His eyes widened. These weren't boring stories. They were full of pain, courage, heartbreak, and hope. Without telling anyone, Alex typed up a section of Grandpa's writing and posted it on TikTok as a short narration video. The title? "My Grandpa Said I Was Nothing Until He Proved Me Wrong." The explosion. By morning, the video had 3 million views. Comments flooded in. "This broke me. Please post more of Grandpa's stories. Your grandpa is a legend. Protect him at all costs. I wish I had a grandfather like this. Please share more." Suddenly, Grandpa Henry's stories weren't just words in a notebook. They were touching millions of lives. Alex showed the video to the family. They were stunned. Daniel muttered, I had no idea, Dad." His wife's eyes filled with tears. Even the grandchildren looked at Henry differently now. But Grandpa didn't stop there. He kept writing and Alex kept posting. Each story went viral. Tales of forgiveness, tales of regret, tales of love that lasted beyond death. One video, where Henry shared how he once had to walk 10 miles to deliver food to a neighbor during a snowstorm, hit 20 million views in 3 days. News outlets picked up the story. Suddenly, Grandpa Henry was being called America's grandfather. The twist. But not everyone was happy. One evening, his son Daniel said, "Dad, this is great. But let's be honest. You can't keep up with this. You're old. Maybe let us take over? We can manage the account and the stories for you." Henry looked at his son for a long moment. He knew what Daniel meant. He wanted control, maybe even profit. But Henry smiled softly and said, "No, son. These are my words, my voice. If the world wants to hear from me, they will hear it from me, not secondhand." For the first time, Daniel didn't argue back. Instead, he nodded. Deep down, he felt ashamed. The legacy. Within a year, Grandpa Henry's stories had not only gone viral, but had also been turned into a book called Letters from a Grandpa. It became a bestseller. His talks were invited to schools, podcasts, even television interviews. People who felt abandoned, elderly people who felt invisible, young people searching for guidance, all found hope in Henry's words. And his own family? They began to cherish him in ways they never did before. His grandchildren would beg, "Grandpa, tell us one of your stories before bed." His son held his hand one day and whispered, "Dad, I'm sorry. You were never useless. You're the reason I am who I am. Grandpa Henry just smiled and said, It's never too late to be useful. Not for anyone. Conclusion. What started as an insult, useless, turned into a movement that touched millions. Grandpa Henry proved that no age, no wrinkle, no slow step could stop a person from changing the world. And the lesson? Sometimes the most viral stories come from the quietest voices.